Tobias Nageli at Air and Space Forces Magazine. I'm here with Mark Gonzo Gunzinger from the AFA's Mitchell Institute for Aerospace Studies. Gonzo, you had a really interesting panel today on
balancing the Air Force's future capabilities mix.
Right. So future capabilities. Talk to us about it and run through everybody who was on there, because you had Cobra Harigian, who's I think now with Lockheed.
Yeah, Cobra was there. He's now with the Skunk Works, of course. Otis Winkler from Kratos made some great comments. Major General Jason Armagost, commander of the 8th Air Force, and David Alexander from GAASI.
General Atomics, yeah.
Absolutely. And they had some fascinating insights. Let me hit one right off the bat.
Right.
The panel was about getting the Air Force's future capabilities mixed right. Point number one, we can have the best capabilities mix in the world, but if the Air Force does not have enough warfighting capacity, which it doesn't today, we're still going to lose. So a balanced force.
So it's not, you can't have a mix of 1 + 1.
Right. Exactly. A silly example, it didn't come up in the panel, but it's a good one. The Air Force's combat aircraft inventory is too old. We know that. We just heard that from J.V. Venable. So, all right, well, we'll fix that. We'll just retire all the old aircraft. Great, brings the average age down. But you kill the Air Force. So the Air Force must have the capability and the capacity to defeat a peer adversary in the Pacific or maybe in Europe in the future, and defend the homeland and deter nuclear attacks against the United States simultaneously. Those are all additive force capability and capacity requirements. And today, it doesn't have the right mix of capabilities. It doesn't have the capacity to do all those at acceptable levels of risk.
Okay, so let's kind of try to figure out, how do you get from, right, and this is the best time to grow a 100-year-old oak tree was 100 years ago, right? It's not now. So it's going to take time. Is this a 1-year problem? Is it a 10-year problem? What do they have to do now to start being healthy 5 years from now?
Right. So the most immediate thing is to buy the capabilities that we can acquire today, for which there are existing programs of record, and accelerate to the extent possible the next generation of systems. That means maximizing our acquisition of F-35. We've got a hotline to do that. Why aren't we doing that? F-15EX, we need new jets. We need them in the Guard as well as the active, because they can carry a ton of weapons, externally for that matter. Very large weapons, including hypersonic missiles, which we need. Munitions. My God, we have to increase our stockpiles of munitions. You've probably seen unclassified war games. We've led some at Mitchell Institute to say, well, our most important munitions, anti-ship weapons, we could run out of them to 7 to 9 days in a fight with China. China knows this, and that's a huge, huge driver of risk. So we have to increase our munition stocks. The lines that are open today increase the capacity of our industrial base to push them out to the force. B-21's on track. F-47's coming on. Anything we can do to increase funding to get them out the door, accelerate the B-21 acquisition rate, which the Congress is helping the Department of War now to do. Those are all things that will help reduce risk over the next 4 or 5 years. We can't wait 10 to 15 years in the future for the next set of exquisite capabilities to go on.
So the Air Force has really spent many of the past years kind of saying, okay, well, we'll give these things up and we'll rebuild for later. We'll give these things up, we'll rebuild for later. There's still talk right now about giving up those platforms that are not going to be capable against a peer adversary. Well, that's going to reduce your capacity in the short term also, won't it? I mean, you're not, as you pointed out, we could have fighting in Europe. You may still be active in the Middle East. You're going to have missions that are not only in the Pacific.
The mantra of all will trade capacity for capabilities that have been in place for 25 years, a good period of that I was in the Pentagon and lived that. We cannot do that any longer. And our Air Force agrees it cannot do that any longer. So stop the bleeding. Stop divesting current capabilities that we have on the ramp in hopes that they will be eventually replaced. Good example. We now have about a third the number of bombers on the ramp that we had at the end of the Cold War, when we had one peer adversary, the Soviet Union. Now we have two. And again, a bomber force is a third of the size of what deterred the Soviet Union. So the Air Force may be forced to retire the world's only stealth bomber, the B-2, and the B-1, which is non-stealthy, to help afford the B-21 and to transition the people from those crew forces over to the B-21. We ought to buy back those bombers to help fill our bomber bathtub, our long-range strike bathtub, well into the 2030s, but that's going to take additional resources that the Air Force might not have. So that's the job of this administration and Congress.
So the next few months, I mean, they're working now on that 27 budget. We don't have a 26 budget. And we run the risk of a shutdown right now. What is the, every time we have one of those shutdowns, you worked in the Pentagon, you kind of lived through this. What does that do to the internal workings of everything else? I mean, what's the, you lose time and it costs you money.
You lose time living under continuing resolutions that prohibit new program starts, that don't provide the funding we need to start to actually buy new capabilities like collaborative combat aircraft that could really help increase the Air Force's combat capacity for both counter-air and strike and electronic warfare and other missions. They can perform multiple missions. That's going to be really hard to do under a CR. And we need stability in our budget, not this continuing, we're on the edge of a shutdown and a CR, so forth. That doesn't allow our planners, our programmers, our strategists to really say, here is the trajectory we must follow to rebuild the Air Force. Because there's always turbulence, there's always uncertainty. We need to reduce the level of uncertainty that allow us to come up with roadmaps that we can execute.
So you brought up CCAs, and I think I'd like to kind of wrap up with that. But you know, that's still that's a future capability. We've seen one CCA fly, and it was a test flight, and it wasn't operating autonomously yet. So we haven't really proven that technology yet. Is that really something we can bet on?
China is. Most of our allies are too. They want those capabilities because they know they are force multipliers. Is it a future capability? Yeah, but define future. By future, I mean we should start acquiring them next year as quickly as possible. Get them into the field, give them to the warfighters, allow them to start to experiment with them and figure out new ways of using them that we can't even think of. But that's not going to happen without funding.
They actually have to have them in hand to experiment
Absolutely.
And discover what's possible.
Don't wait for the perfect. Take what's mature enough to get out there, to be operationally useful, and then continue to grow those capabilities over time.
One of the things, and I guess I was going to end there, but I want to come back. We had the other day Doug Pearson, who had flown the F-15 that shot down a satellite. And he described all the work that went into that. And at that time, this was really taking theoretical physics and then making it real. 1,000 people worked on that project over 6 months. Eventually, they were successful. That kind of experimentation was the hallmark of the post-Vietnam rebuilding of the Air Force. We have gotten kind of used to the idea that we don't experiment anymore, that we wait for it to be perfect. Is the culture ready to just say, let's roll that stuff out there? Is there a hunger out there for that?
There's definitely a hunger. And there's a hunger on the part of the warfighters. They need new capabilities now. They need more capacity now. That can't wait for the perfect weapon system. Israel has operationalized a new high-powered, high-energy laser to shoot down drones and other threats. We have yet to have one operational laser in the Department of War. Why is that? We've been pouring about $1 billion a year into that technology, and we don't have a program of record. To me, that's shameful. But that's just one example of a lot of technologies that, frankly, are mature enough to field if we had the resources, if our Department of War had the resources to field them.
Okay, so you said $1 billion. That's not jump change.
It's not
so
jump change.
We should
year
be able
after
to
year of developing technology, maturing it, and testing it, and okay, but there's something new coming a year or two now. Well, let's get what we have out there, because the need is now. It's not, well, maybe China will wait another 10 years before they pull the trigger in the Pacific.
All right, Gonzo. Thanks so much, Mark Gonzinger. Thanks. It's always good to talk to you.
Thank you, Tobias.
All right, take care.